Hello everybody and welcome to Sin City Living. My name is Jason. I'll be bringing you today's episode. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We have a ton of content coming out for you guys every single day. Our usual shout out to our patrons. We appreciate all those tips and support. Only going to go towards making the channel better and hopefully adding more games over time. We'd definitely like to add roulette. We'd also like to add some slots, keno, video poker kind of stuff. And that's what we're hoping to add within the next year or two. There are ways to do it a little bit sooner. If we could get a little bit of help, if you're curious about it, go ahead and check the description down below the video. No pressure. We appreciate you guys just tuning on in for us. And I do hope you patrons appreciate the weekly exclusive videos we're putting out for you guys every single week. If anybody has any questions, suggestions, strategies, anything related to casinos, Vegas, or gambling, craps, blackjack, baccarat, paidao, please email us at sincityliving.lv@gmail.com. We're more than happy to shoot those videos. We love shooting those videos for you guys. It's one of our favorite things. And with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's video. This one might be a little bit shorter. I want to answer a question that I see pop up fairly often. Oftentimes when there's a pretty busy game going, there's a lot of bets, there's a lot of chips going out around the table, at some point, and it happens very frequently, there's going to be what's called a cocked die. Die is going to land on something. And we call a number, and depending on the number, there's a big uproar. If it's a 7, there's almost always a bigger uproar, and they completely forget about the last time around when it was a winner and we called it. Like you guys always call a 7, you guys always do that. Yeah, well, what about the 2 winners we called the last time the die was cocked? Like, just, you can't have it both ways. So I thought I would shoot a video to explain to you how we deal with cocked dice, because there is actually a procedure. If there was no procedure and it was randomized, then of course, yes, absolutely, the casinos could certainly take advantage. However, there is a specific procedure to how a cocked die is called and must be called. So let me show you. I'm going to zoom in this camera and hopefully be enough to give you guys a good view. So, okay, let's see here. So let's say there's some chips out. The dice go flying. Let's use 1 for now. The dice go flying and we get this right here. Okay, now let's say the point is 4 and this lands. And it lands just like this. Now, this is definitely going to cause an uproar, for sure, because the people on this side of the table are going to start screaming and yelling, "Hey, winner, winner, winner!" People on this side of the table that are over here aren't going to argue either way. The people that are, people on this side of the table are going to start screaming winner. People on this side of the table aren't going to argue either way. I forgot how much I had the camera zoomed in. People right there are probably going to argue because they're going to see both sides of the dice. Okay? The correct call for this landing of the dice is a 7. It's not a 4. And at no time ever would we call a 4 if the dice land this way. Never, ever, ever. So why is that? Because this looks like, and I could even move this a little bit, so it's almost exactly at a perfect angle. So why is it that this would be a 7 and not a 4? Why is it that we would call that 6? Because it looks to me like, some players would say that it looks to them like this is the top of the dice, because where's the table? The other side. Right? However, the proper procedure and the way every cocked die is treated is whatever it is cocked on is the bottom of the dice. So it's cocked on this chip. That means that side is the bottom, which means the side away from the chip it is attached to, is cocked on, is the side that is called, is the top of the dice. So since the die is cocked like that, then this side is what is called. It's a 6. No question. There's absolutely zero question about it. Now, a good dealer is going to call the 7 out, the 6 and the 1. It's going to call the 7 out, and then it's going to immediately tap the dice. Is going to hit the dice with a stick to get it out of there, because that removes some of the argument. Okay. Now that applies with just about anything. Dice land on the puck. Guess what? That's a 7 out. It's not a 4. It's a 7 out. The 7 landed. This would be a winner 4, not a 2. All right? Why? Because it is cocked on this, which means that this is the top. Where would the dice be if the object was not there? Not would the dice continue tumbling, but where would the dice be if the object was not there? If this object was not there, it clearly can't be this way, because otherwise it would have already rolled that way. Which means that if the object wasn't there, it absolutely must be this way. There's no other possibility by the laws of physics. So whatever it is cocked on is always what is called. There are the occasional exception. Now, this is the reason why when you have a pass line bet and odds, the dealer's going to push your odds back to make sure there's at least 2 fingers in between. So there needs to be enough space for the dice to be able to land in between these chips without the potential of being cocked on both sets. Could potentially be cocked on one set, but not both sets. If it's cocked on one set, we can call it. If it's cocked on both, I'd say we get something like this. That right there is a no roll. That is a no roll. We cannot call it. There's absolutely no way for us to call it. That is a no roll. Even better, and I've seen some real weird stuff where it somehow lands almost like it's on one of its points. It's real hard to redo. But this right here actually would be called. That would be a 6 because it's not actually cocked on this set of chips. Just maybe touching, but it's not actually cocked on that set of chips. But land something like this, especially if it's not touching the table at all, that is a no roll. Always. If the dice land in the chips, in the bankroll, at the end of the table, or in the middle of the table where the box is, it is always, always, always a no roll. Players always want to say, you wouldn't say that if it was a 7. Yes, we do. Every single day, it is a no roll. Always if it lands in the money, if it lands up on the rail, if it lands on the floor, if it starts to go out and somebody bats it back in, it is a no roll. Now, if you don't move and the dice bounce off of you and come back to the table, but you did not move, then it is a roll. A player is just a piece of furniture, just like everything else, if they don't interfere with the roll. Same thing with the dealers. If it hits the dealer and is a 7 out, oh well, you shouldn't have hit the dealer. I actually had that happen the other day. This area right here is the dealer's working area. Even if the dice are out, the dealer can still feel free to set up bets. They won't, but they could certainly feel free to set up bets because this is the dealer's working area. You don't want the dealer's hands in your way? Don't throw it in their working area. You've got the other 4 feet of table and down the center, which we tell you to throw, in order to throw these dice. So don't throw in their working areas. Dealer can come up here and tap dance if they wanted to while you're throwing the dice. As long as they're in their working area, it's none of your concern, none of your business, and your fault if you hit them. And I had that happen the other day. Dealer wasn't even in this area. They were bringing the chips. They had their chips all the way back in their stack, so you can't even see where my hand is right now. That's where their hand was. And the player threw the dice directly into their hand. The dice came this way. Came right through, I'm trying to show it to you guys, came right through like this. Released from their hand, came straight through. One of them came straight through and hit the dealer's hand. Rebounded off the dealer's hand, and it was a 7 out. Of course we called it as a 7 out. That was a roll. And the player's like, well, his hand hit it. And I didn't even miss a beat and went, his hand didn't hit it. You threw it at his hand. So you hit his hand, not the other way around. And oddly enough, this time around, the rest of the table took my side. They actually all started laughing at him and making fun of him for it because he was right there. He wasn't even that far away. It's not like he was at the far end of the table. He was right there. So he threw him diagonally. He had this whole wide open area, and he threw it into the dealer's hands. Right? There are very specific protocols for every single thing dealing with how the dice land, how we have to call the dice, what we have to do. And we have no variation on it. None whatsoever. It's just like if you short throw. You know what? I'm going to call that. That's a 6. We're going to call that roll. We're going to call that roll, and then I'm going to tell you, you need to hit the back wall. And if they do that, we're going to call that. That's a winner 6. So we'd call a winner. And then I would stop the dice and hold it, and I would tell them even more sternly, you must hit that back wall with both dice. Then they do this. We're going to call that. It'd be a winner 7, so that's a come out roll. Or it could even be a 7 out if there's a point marked. Either way, we're going to call it. If it's a winner, we're going to call it. And then we're going to stop the dice again, and we're going to tell that shooter, okay, this is your final warning. If you don't hit the back dice, or back wall, if you don't hit the back dice. If you don't hit the back wall with both dice, you're not shooting anymore. They do this. We're going to call that number 10. And then we're going to mark the 10. We're going to dump the bowl, and we're going to give all 5 dice to the next person. Yes, it's right in the middle of their roll. Oh well, should have hit the back wall. The thing is, in order to be a legal roll, it has to have forward momentum, forward motion with a tumble. That's it. Forward motion with a tumble. So that is not a roll. No tumble. It's also cheating. That is a roll. Now, some casinos may not call it if it doesn't at least pass the center line of the table, which that's up to them, a house rule, certainly. But technically, all it has to do is have forward motion with a tumble. Not hitting the back wall is what we're going to correct you on until we decide to take the dice away from you and no longer allowed to shoot for the rest of the night. I know people that have lifetime bans from shooting in specific casinos. They're never allowed to shoot in those casinos again. And it's because they got cut off from shooting multiple times. Typically, we cut someone off for the night. Then the next time, we might cut somebody off for 6 months. And then the next time, we might cut them off for a year. Or we might cut them off permanently. Depends. Depends on the situation. Okay. But there are protocols for everything. So I hope you guys find this interesting, illuminating, enlightening, at least fun. And we appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye now.